It's episode number 352 on the Church Solutions podcast. And my name is Phil Thompson.
And I'm Steve Lacy.
And I'm Michael Gray.
Is there an engine that's a 352? I don't think so. There's a 357, right?
I think they're 351.
351 way
over.
351.
Yeah. Cleveland and Windsor 351. I was with it last week. But I think the next one's a 357, right? No, that's a gun.
All
right.
360, Ford 360.
All right. So
Ford
people are
460.
listening to this podcast going, what are they talking about? Time for me to go. All right. So today we're going to talk about streaming video. As you know, if you listen to this podcast at all, we do cover a lot of topics because we work with churches. So we interview people, we talk about ministry, we talk about tech things. And today, amazingly enough, we're going to talk about tech stuff. And today we're going to talk about 10, count them, 10, probably more than 10. We may go more. 10 tips for stress-free streaming video for your church. Stress-free is the emphasis here.
Or you could read it, 10 tips for stress-free streaming video.
Yeah, it all depends where you put the comma, right? Well, yeah, I'm good at stress.
And that's true.
10 tips for stress.
There'd be different content in there.
Yeah, but see, this is the deal with us. We want to make it stress-free for our customers.
I know.
For anybody. And we were just talking about that off mic here, how easy it is. How simple we make everything. All right. So we're going to talk about this. And most of these are pretty forthcoming, but there's a few I've mixed in here that you might say, well, why is that stress-free? How's that? So we'll get into that as time goes on. And I'm sure you can add some things. Mike's now looking at the notes. All right.
No, how could we possibly add more to this topic?
Oh, gosh. All right. So let's just jump in, and they're not all in order, but this one's probably the first one if you want to really do anything. Number one, test your equipment.
Yes.
Please.
At our church, we have a run through of the service, which includes the worship band. I mean, they run through, they're primarily interested in making sure that the sound's going to work and that the microphones or levels are right and they aren't getting any feedback and everybody knows the words. And yes, so you run through everything. So it's not a bad idea to run through everything on the streaming side.
Yeah, if you're remixing your sound, how can you expect it to be good to go online if you don't test it before you go live?
Yeah. Or make sure it's even going to work.
Yes.
You know, it's the critical failures are, we got 5 minutes to service. I better go turn that streaming computer back on. And, it's stuck in a Windows update for the next 30 minutes. And we've seen those horror stories.
Why isn't the camera working?
Yes. So I strongly encourage people to test your equipment during the week. Yeah, don't wait until 10 minutes before service starts.
Well, that's ideal. But the whole key, what we're going to talk about today, the whole key to this whole thing is routine. I mean, you've got to get yourself and your team in a routine. And so, if it's 30 minutes before the service, make it 30 minutes before the service every time. It's got to be a routine. And that's the problem people run into is they don't have a routine. And, I'm a routine person by and large. And so, once you get in a routine, it makes life easier in the long run. Now, I'm not saying you can't change or flex a little bit, but really, when we talk about streaming video, a routine is the key to everything we're going to talk about today. So test your equipment.
Yeah. And I know a few pastors that thrive on chaos. They say, no, I don't need a routine. I thrive on chaos. And then I help them understand, or we try. Their volunteers do not thrive on chaos. If they have a nice, clean checklist that says, step one, test your equipment, turn it on.
I went to work for a church, the last church I was with, and the guy I replaced, they had no routine, and it was just nuts. And so one of the first things I did was say, here's what we're going to do 30 minutes before the service. Everybody's going to get together. And it made life so much easier. and everybody was so much happier. And yeah,
Yep.
it took a while. It took a while for people to get used to, oh, I got to be here 30 minutes early. Well, yeah, depending on what you've got, so test your equipment, and, you need to know your equipment. You need to know what equipment you're going to be using, and you need to test it and spend some time doing that. So, and it's going to vary, obviously, from church to church, depending on what you've got and what you're using, but test it. All right. Shall we move on?
Yeah.
So here's another one. Test your internet connection. And this one, I think this one is a weak spot for many churches because, we've got great internet. And Mike, you deal with this because you're primarily doing Sunday morning live support. I am too at times. Steve has been. When you ask somebody when they're having a problem, well, how's your internet? What's your upload speed? Oh, it's good. It's 25 meg up. No, really? When did you do the test? I don't know. We did it a few months ago.
We pay good money for that 25 meg up.
Or the company
I'm
told us
paying a
that.
lot of money for that 25 meg
Yeah.
up, even though it's dipping to 1 meg up.
Yeah, or the company told us that it was 25 meg or 50 meg or whatever. They told us that. Well, did you test it? Well, I don't know. Did we do that? I don't remember. And look, I mean, sometimes it's not the internet connection, but a lot of times it is.
Sometimes it is, yeah.
It varies, and we've told stories on here before when I was working with Mike. Golf tournaments would come into Tucson, and Tiger Woods would be here, and all of a sudden our internet would magically disappear. I remember 2 years in a row.
They were using up all of the local bandwidth, and we had sketchy to no internet.
I remember thinking, we had a huge delay. We were using Flash Media Live Encoder. I remember there was like a 3 or 4 minute delay. It kept getting worse and worse. And I thought, what's going on here? I need to call streaming church support. And I realized, wait a minute, I am streaming church support. So, our internet disappeared. It just disappeared. And so it happens is what we're trying to say, folks.
Sure.
It happens. And a lot of times you'll save yourself a lot of heartache and frantically trying to call us or whoever you use. And if you just do some speed tests and do multiple speed tests and look for the upload, that's what you want.
Yeah. As of go ahead, Steve.
And you may be surprised. Many a time I have had to really twist an arm and say, come on, just humor me. Let's go ahead and run the test, because we're having those problems and they're sure it's our problem. And finally they go, okay, I'll do it. And they run the test and like, oh, wow. We're paying for 25 meg. What's going on here? Yeah.
I would say there's a couple I've had lately that I would add to this. Make sure the other staff and pastors in the church aren't streaming YouTube videos throughout the building, using up all your bandwidth.
Right.
That's part of checking your internet. We ended up separating our internet so that you could not access the part that served the stream. We had 2 internet services, one for the public and one for the staff, and then one specifically for streaming. Yeah.
And that's
protect that bandwidth.
Yeah, it's very helpful. And that's a very good point. When other people are on your internet, we have what I call internet atrophy, which I've copyrighted. All right. So test your internet. And really, I would encourage you to test it all the time. Test it before you stream. Even once you start streaming, test it again while you're streaming, just to see how it's going. And so just make it a routine. There's that magic word again, routine. All right, number 3, make sure you have an accurate, emphasis accurate, order of service. Now, in the old days, you'd get a bulletin that had, we're going to stand up, sing two hymns, and then we're going to sit down and pray, and then we're kind of what I'm talking about here. But when you're doing streaming video, especially if you have multiple cameras and you have a lot going on, you have people getting up, testimonies maybe, or baptisms coming up, or, the choir singing, or somebody's doing a solo, or announcements. It's really good to have an understanding of what's coming up next, and everybody needs to be on the same page.
Yeah. And common examples for us is going to be, 2 weeks ago, we had a little prop action where someone was going to come out of the crowd and give the pastor a drink, and we knew he was going to spill it and have it explode everywhere. But if the cameraman didn't know that was part of the service, and he wouldn't have been able to get
Get a
you know
Zoom.
what's going on of this guy
Close up.
walking up with and you know handing a soda or opening a soda and have it spray everywhere. It would just been out of the camera shot. So it's just and that kind of thing. Or we'll do, like you said, we do baptism. So got to make sure that you have the right shot set up. And if you don't know, you don't have the order of service and you don't know what's going to happen, you just show up and start, you know, being the cameraman or whatever, or the switcher or whatever role you're playing. You could miss quite a bit.
Yeah. Stress-free, you know, and when
Yeah.
something's going on and you don't know about it or something, there's a surprise, stress.
Our church online experience changed dramatically when we started really living within the order of service. Our pastor of chaos, as I'll call him, just like to wing it, and that's great. Some people, I mean, that's fine. However, as you said, Steve, I'm watching online and this is my church service and I completely missed the illustration, you know, because your camera guy didn't know, your switcher didn't know to go to that shot, and I missed it. And so the great poignant illustration that you just made a week planning for was completely missed because that order of service wasn't in everyone's hands.
Yep. I'm thinking there's wet, sticky soda on the floor. Yeah. Not sure what that illustration's all about. I have to look at that.
That was almost as good as when the pastor ran into the wall and dumped it all over himself.
That I didn't see. I just remember the
Oh my
pie.
God.
I remember the pie. What was it? The pie? I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off.
That one's even. Oh, yeah.
Lord of the Pies or something.
So I'm doing announcements, Phil, and pastor comes walking up the walkway on the far side of the worship center, and he's looking down at his phone, something with his notes, and he's got a giant soda from the convenience store. And he just runs right into the wall and it just explodes all over him.
Is that Jeff?
And I started laughing so hard I had to take a knee right in the center of stage doing announcements.
That's funny. That was Jeff, huh? Was that Jeff?
Yeah, that was Jeff. That one was Jeff, yes.
That wasn't a planned one.
No, that was a total and complete accident. Well, so was the pies, but that's a whole other story.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. So, you know, get an accurate order of service, make sure everybody's on the same page, review it. As Steve had mentioned at kind of the beginning, his church, they actually have a meeting beforehand and they go through all this stuff beforehand. And again, it's routine. You always have that meeting, don't you, Steve?
We do.
Always do it. So, you know, you start doing routine, it becomes easier. All right. So number 4 in my little notes here on stress-free streaming, 10 tips for stress-free streaming. Communicate the expectations to your volunteers and your staff. So you've got, chances are everybody listening to this podcast, you know, there's volunteers doing a lot of things in your church. They're wonderful people. They're the lifeblood of every church. Volunteers are awesome. You know, we've all been in that seat. We've all worked with them. And, but if you don't communicate the expectations that you have for whatever it is they're doing, they'll get stressed because you'll be on their case about something. You'll be stressed. You'll be frustrated. Everybody will be unhappy.
Yep, exactly. And sometimes if you do communicate the expectations, they don't come to fruition, but that's okay.
No, but at least you try.
Like,
yeah,
we have a cameraman that doesn't attend the run-throughs, so he gets his own private crash course a few minutes before the service.
Yeah. Well, and that happens. But, you know, I mean, again, people need to expect what you require them to do. You know, I've always said this, you know, you raise the bar up as far as expectations for people, and you're going to get people that will meet that bar and even go above it. If you just have low expectations, just show up and hopefully it works, you're going to get exactly what you ask for. And so expect high, you know, because, and we'll get into this later in the notes, but, you know, this is important stuff you're doing. And so it's important for the volunteers to understand that and understand what's expected of them. And it will become less anxiety if you do that.
Yeah. Just like an employee, volunteers want to know what's the deal. If I did this really well, what would that look like? And you paint that picture for them. And the better you are at painting that picture, as you said, Phil, the better your outcomes will be.
Absolutely.
And they'll feel very stress-free because they know exactly what's expected.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So as we move on here to notes number 5, when it comes to stress, dealing with stress, stress-free streaming, number 5 is pray. And you can put this anywhere, maybe at the beginning, but pray with your staff, pray with your volunteers, and even your online attenders. And again, that takes some time, but prayer does a lot of things. What I like about prayer is it works for me more than trying to convince God to do something. It works in my heart. It brings peace in my heart. And take some time to pray with your staff, your volunteers, and even your online attenders, if you can do that. It's a great way to reduce stress. And it kind of reminds people in an indirect way why they're doing what they're doing, which we'll get into here in a moment.
Yes, always. I mean, it changes the whole attitude and kind of communicates, like you said, especially if it's routine too. Yeah. Or if it's part of the routine is to pray, and everyone kind of goes, okay, why are we doing this?
Especially if you come to church and not everybody's in a happy attitude. I mean, you get there, you've had fights with the kids or the wife or whatever it is. And, a lot of times you walk into a meeting and your anxiety is high, not because you're at the church, but because of what happened before you got to the church. And so, praying calms everybody down, settles everybody down. And it just really helps to bring peace.
All right. Sounds good. Number 6. Make your live stream easy to find on your website and social media.
Yeah. How does this make things stress-free? Well, for me, it's indirectly. I mean, you make it easy for people to find. You're going to get people watching. You're doing this not to just kill time. You're doing it to reach people. And when you find out, hey, there's actually people watching this and lives are actually being changed, when you make your live stream easy to find, it's just easier. It's just life gets better, instead of people asking, where can I watch this? What's going on here? I missed it. It just, in an indirect way, it brings less stress in your life when people can easily find your live stream and can be a part of things.
We on support every week get people asking, hey, I'm trying to find my church's stream, help me. And I'm like, okay, are they hiding it from people or what's the deal here?
It is kind of weird because I've been, a while back getting those same requests, hey, trying to watch the stream from, Mount XYZ Church. And I'm like, well, did you go to their website? And, anyway.
That's the problem. They didn't. They couldn't find it. Yeah, it's so, make it easy for people to find it, and
imagine at live church that you hide the sanctuary and people have to find it. I mean, it's the same thing.
Yeah,
you're hiding the live experience and they have to hunt around, and people get really frustrated when they are unsure, especially when they're new to a place. And they're already anxious, and then you don't have any signage in your building and you don't have any buttons on your website. Make it redundant. Put a countdown timer and 3 buttons and just make it super easy to find it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, and with number 7 here, have a streaming service that provides you support 7 days a week, especially on Sundays.
The day when everybody's streaming.
Yes.
Well, if you know somebody's there to help you, if they're just a phone call away, if they're just a live chat away, it will reduce the stress in your life. And you're not doing it alone. You got some help here. They're not far away. You're going to get somebody that's going to reach out to you and help you in time of need. That makes a big difference when you're trying to do streaming video. And I can't tell you the number of people that, we talk to. Mike knows it. And so do you, Steve, that are just so happy that we're available.
Yeah. A lot of them have not done steps 1 and 2 on our list, but it does come through as a,
we can forward this. We can forward this podcast to them. But yeah, so I mean, really, you want a company that's going to be there for you. Yeah, nobody's perfect, but we do our very best to try to return calls if we miss them, and return emails in a timely fashion, and especially on Sunday mornings we're live. So, all right. So as we move on here, where am I at? Okay, we got plenty of time. Number 8, monitor your live streaming with an interactive live video chat platform. So what I'm getting at here is, okay, you've done some of these things, you're streaming, you're the tech person here, you're streaming. You really still need to have, either if you don't do it, somebody close to you needs to be monitoring your live stream.
Yeah.
Especially the audio part.
Yeah. I was just going to say, probably the most common thing is the audio's all messed up. As the camera looks great, and the feed's going out, and we're not getting any buffering, and life looks really good, and you kind of sit back in your seat and relax. And if you aren't monitoring the stream or participating in the service online yourself, you won't realize that the audio is 4 seconds out of sync, or
overmodulating,
or that's another one where it's just they turn the gain up to 12. And you just hear, just whatever it may be. But it's just usually audio from the video side, or rather than the video side.
Yeah. It did take our team a little while, and this has been way back when we first started streaming, Steve, and you built the platform, to understand that listening to it before it went to the internet was not the same as listening to it after it went to the internet.
Yeah.
Sounds good in my headphones. Yeah, but that's post-web.
Yeah.
I mean, pre-web.
Pre-web, yeah. There's our sound guy's got a nice little big old AB switch set up, and he can hear what's coming in, and then he can switch it over and hear what's going out. And he's got some very typical speakers and stuff set up so that he's hearing it similar to what. And then a lot of times they'll pull their phone out too and see, what's it sound like on the phone?
Yeah, those guys do a great job. Is Mark and Tony still doing a lot of that?
They are.
Yeah, they do a great job.
They're the grandfathers there.
Yeah, they are. Well, yeah, it is so important. And, as we've often said, one of the most important things about streaming video is not video. It's actually audio. You can have subpar video, but if your audio is clean and clear, people are fine. But you can have the greatest video in the world, high definition, whatever, but if the audio sucks, nobody's going to hang around. They just won't. They won't do it. So make sure you monitor your live streaming. And if you've got an interactive platform where you do have live chat and those kind of things, if you can't monitor the chat, you should have somebody do it. And we give you opportunities to have a web host and do all that.
And you will find you'll find that for 98% of everybody, it's wonderful. And then you got one person who's saying, if you have live chat, that I can't hear anything. And you kind of walk them through how to unmute their computer or whatever. You can kind of do your own little troubleshooting for your viewers.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So as we move on here in our list, number 9, this is all throughout when it comes to dealing with stress. Remember why you're doing this. Why are you doing this? Remember the mission here. Remember the vision. I think all of us have been in this same seat, whether it's starting businesses or starting churches or working with churches or volunteering. It's very stressful. Stressful when I was building radio stations, stressful when I was starting churches. I think the three of us here in this podcast can certainly relate. But if you can remember why you're doing it, it reduces your stress level. It still may be stress, but at least you know what, I'm doing this for a purpose. I'm doing this for the kingdom. I'm doing this to reach people. I'm doing this to help people. And when you remember the mission, it really helps lower the level of stress. You still got to have issues, but at least you know why you're doing what you're doing, and it gives you the energy to plow through it.
Exactly. We have our regular meeting, and one of the staff members has a phrase that she always asks. She says, "Why are we here? Why are we doing this?" And the answer is, because everyone spends eternity somewhere. So we all in unison go through an answer.
Yeah. So So it's very important to do that. And this is part of it. And then I've got this at the end here of the list, number 10, review your online goals and your analytics. Now, this is important. I mean, you really should have some kind of goals, and you should be monitoring your analytics. Now, we provide all that with our company. And because I think reviewing online goals and analytics, and again, it kind of helps fit in with your mission, helps with your vision. And again, you're doing this for a purpose. And, if you're not meeting your goals, then come up with a strategy that maybe can do that.
Yep. I always want to measure, right? So you don't
It's
measure,
important.
you don't know if you're
Yeah.
hitting the mark or not,
Yeah.
or you're even going in the right direction.
You can usually tell if a church is measuring or not, because the language they use when you ask how things are going will either be, well, we hit this mark or that mark, or the opposite being, it feels pretty good. Oh, it feels good. Okay. How is that a feel good scale of 10? Are you a 9? Are you an 8?
Yeah. But, having goals and analytics, it can reduce your stress in the sense that you know what the game is, so to speak. And the game's probably not the right word to use, but you know what the purpose is, you know what the routine is. And, you're doing this for a purpose, for a reason. And you can look at these things and again, if you're not where you want to be when you look at your goals and analytics, and then, you can come up with a strategy and get some help on this stuff and make it work. Very important. But if you're just kind of floating around, like Mike said, and just, well, it feels pretty good today. Well, okay, glad it feels good, but that doesn't mean it's.
Yeah. Did you change anybody's life?
Yeah. Did anything change here in situation? So anyhow, those are a few things that I put down here. We'll put this on our blog eventually here. You can read our blog anytime by going to blog.streamingchurch.tv. That's who we are. We have other things on the blog as well. And of course, we have a podcast that you're listening to right now. It's available on video or audio, and you can always get it anywhere that you get your podcast. We're on Apple and all that stuff. And hey, give us a review if you could. That would be wonderful as well. All right, guys, any closing words here as we talk about stress-free streaming video, or as Steve said, tips for stress? Streaming video.
No, these are 10 tips. There would be 10 tips for stress. We could definitely put the antithesis of each one of these things,
Good.
and they would be tips for stress, or just do
Tips for
free
stress.
streaming video. Speaking of the free streaming video, we get people coming to us all the time, is because they're doing free streaming video and they get taken down in the middle of a service. So we had one just last week, right? They even stopped broadcasting their worship and got taken down for the message.
Yeah.
So
yeah, the free
that'll
providers
introduce
out
some
there
stress.
will do that from time. Yeah, absolutely.
To be clear, you're talking about Facebook and YouTube.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, those are
Just to be clear, because not everybody will get that.
Yeah, the free service is
The
Facebook
free
and YouTube.
Services
May
are not
induce
free
stress.
if they don't work, and they shut your channel down and block you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that can cause stress. No doubt about that.
Very
Hi,
stressful.
gentlemen. All right, guys. All righty. Well, look, thank you very much for your input, guys. Appreciate it very much.
Glad to be here.
I feel very
Always.
privileged to work with a great team like this. And folks, if we can help you, if anything, when it comes to streaming video or any other ministry related things, we're here to help you. No obligation. We'll give you free advice. How's that for stress-free? And whatever we can do to help you guys, because that's kind of what we're doing here. We have a purpose and a mission, and that's to help churches and ministries. So again, we are here to help you. All right, guys, thanks again. And if you need anything, you can always reach out to us, folks, at support@streamingchurch.tv. So for Michael Gray and Steve Lacy, I'm Phil Thompson. Please take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll catch you again next time on another episode of the Church Solutions Podcast.